Hello, my name is Shelby Peterson, and I decided to do my folk final presentation on the Norse afterlife beliefs and their multiple burial practices. So who are the Norse people? By definition, Norse is the language or people who lived during medieval times in Norway and or Scandinavia. The most recognizable of the Norse people were the Vikings. They were very infamous in the time for being advanced in all the ways they could. Norse people were very pagan in many of their beliefs, and this led to their gods, traditions, and rituals. And the symbol here is an example of one of their Norse symbols that was found around many of their homes and during battle. So, as I said, we will be speaking about the different types of funerals and what they believed happened in the afterlife. So there were four main types of funerals that happened during the Viking era. Cremation was the most prevalent, and this involved burning of the flesh and bones of the dead. The next was inhumation, which, again, they cremated the body, but instead of keeping the ashes or spreading the ashes, they buried them under the ground. Normal burials became prevalent when Christianity started to come into the Scandinavian countries, and they were performed the same way we perform our funerals now. And the last was called ship burials or sea burials, and they were for the most honorable and highly recognized warriors. And they would put the cremated remains, or the body itself, onto a boat and set fire to the boat and send it out into the sea. As I've mentioned in the last slide, they believed in honorable and dishonorable deaths. An honorable death includes dying in battle or fighting for something that you all as a group believed in and thought it was worth dying for. A dishonorable death including dying of sloth. This meant that you died in your sleep, or of old age, or of just lying down in general. Dying of old age was especially looked down upon during the Viking era. Vikings believed that they needed to be buried with items that would help them in the afterlife. This is the same idea that the Egyptians had in order to make it to the highest paradise they could. Depending on what the person did while they were alive, determined on what they were buried with. So warriors were buried with their weapons and their shields, and craftsmen were buried with their tools, and even the women were buried with their cloth-making materials or any other things that they used while they were alive. Many chants and prayers were also said at the funerals. They were songs that were to help the dead make it to one of the paradises after death. They were also to help the families of the lost, and so on. So in the afterlife, the Vikings believed that there was many places you could go depending on how you lived your life. So, So if you died honorably or not depended on where you would go. The main ones that I will be speaking about are Valhalla, Folkvanger, Helgafell, and Helheim. Sorry about that. So, Valhalla. It is the highest and most honored place that a Viking could go after it's died. It is reserved for those men and women who died in battle during a war. It is believed that you will live in the castle of Odin, next to Odin, who is their god, their highest god, I should say. The next place you could go is called Folkvanger, and it is another place where faithful warriors go after death. It is less known of to Valhalla, but it holds the same standards for its dead. Here, instead of living with Odin, the dead will live with the goddess Freya. It is unknown why they have two paradises, but is believed that because of conflicting beliefs at the time, they were mixing together. Folkvanger is believed to be a meadow and or a wood just outside of the castle the castle that Odin lives in, And it is supposed to be a peaceful place for the dead to live out the rest of their lives in paradise. Helgafell is a place where people who died in an honorable way lived the Viking standards and so on, but they did not die in battle. They would go to Helgafell, which was believed to be on a holy mountain just outside of the castle as well. And it is thought to be for those who just couldn't fight, but they still died honorably. And the last place that Vikings believed that they could go is called Helheim. It is one of the most deviant places that you could go. I say this because it is an equivalent to what we believe as hell. It is where unhonorable men and women go. So, people who died lying down, of old age, of just plain sloth, they would be sent here and almost looked down upon by those who were still alive. It is believed to be in the underground. It is also believed to be very dark and very cold, and you live with the goddess Hel, which is, once again, one of the most dishonorable places you can go as a Viking. So in conclusion, I'd just like to say that the Vikings held very strong beliefs for how they treated and where their dead would go. They also took very high standards in how they lived their life in order to go to the afterlife that they deserved. And they were willing to do all they could to die in the most honorable way they could possibly think. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope you have a good rest of your day/evening.